I have to stop right here and I have to tell you my story of today. Because today we're going to be talking about a child who's been detained and taken from his home in the West Bank, and he died in the prison. He was slaughtered. So let me read to you this article. A Palestinian child killed in Israeli prison after being systematically starved. This is what they do. This is how the Israelis are protecting themselves, by killing the children and by attacking every surrounding country. And I'm not going to talk about the countries right now. I'm going to launch this series to just talk about the attacks of Israelis on children. Walid Khalid Abdullah Ahmed, who was 17 years old, is the first known child killed in an Israeli prison. The first known Palestinian child to be killed in an Israeli prison, Walid Khalid Abdullah Ahmed, was starved, had untreated diseases, and was repeatedly beaten by guards before he died last month, his autopsy report shows. I just cannot understand how people even find excuses for these atrocities and for these things happening. It's literally children being tortured. It's children. If you need a wake up, like everyone needs a wake up call to feel these words. Children are tortured by Israelis in their prisons. The autopsy shows that Ahmed suffered from extreme body muscle and fat wasting, evidenced by a sunken abdomen, caused by extreme, likely prolonged malnutrition, reported Defense for Children International Palestine on Thursday. His body also showed evidence that he had been beaten on his chest and abdomen while imprisoned, as shown by air collection, the group said. At the time of his death, Ahmed also suffered from diseases like scabies and colitis, which likely caused diarrhea and dehydration. He had a number of abrasions and cuts present on his nose, chest, hip, and neck. It's so difficult to read these things and to imagine that other children are witnessing this, and that this is a child. And this is a child experiencing the evil of the worst criminal colonial state that has ever existed. His autopsy was conducted in a facility in Tel Aviv. Israeli authorities are withholding his body from his family. So you kill the person and you hold his body, and I have so many questions, but I just feel so emotional and I cannot actually think properly. Imagine the atrocities. Imagine if, how could they sleep at night knowing very well that this is what they were doing to children? And also, not giving his body to his family. I don't know how. Like, why are you withholding a body? I think they're just, because I don't think Israelis have a shame at all. So they killed him and they have no shame for that. I don't know how a grown person could beat a child knowing that they have no power and they cannot actually do anything to them. They cannot defend themselves. And my questions are a lot, and many of them is, are they taking his organs, like to sell them? Or are they taking his skin, as they do to many Palestinians? Or what are they doing with his body? Well, its autopsy indicates that Israeli prison guards systematically starved and abused him for months until he finally collapsed, struck his head and died, said Ayed Abu Iktaish, head of DCIP's accountability program. DCIP said that it was clear that Ahmed was denied medical care despite suffering from numerous life-threatening conditions, a clear violation of international law, DCIP said. I think a lot of organizations have pointed out that Israelis are continuously violating the international law, the human rights, everything you can mention, but there is no one who's holding them accountable. Starvation is a tool of genocide seeking to weaken and ultimately destroy both the body and spirit of Palestinian child detainees held in Israeli prisons. Israeli authorities were holding Ahmed, who was 17 years old, in Megiddo prison, a torture camp notorious for its abuses against Palestinian detainees. It is particularly known for its abuses against children. He was detained by Israeli forces from his home in the occupied West Bank last September in the middle of the night and was in pre-trial detention when he was killed. So please think about it whenever you think that what's happening in Gaza is the fault of Palestinians. This child was in the West Bank. He didn't do anything. He was with his family at home and he was held in the middle of the night. So probably he was took out of his bed because they decided to take some children so they can abuse them. They can just, I don't know, they have this need, or they have this fetish of abusing children or killing them or just torturing them because they wanted it. There is nothing against this child, and I don't think that there's anything against a child that makes you have the right to do this to him or to do this to any child. On March 22, Ahmed collapsed and hit his head while walking in the prison yard. Guards declined to help him even after other child detainees called for support, so the children carried him to the entry to the yard, where Israeli guards took custody of him before he died, according to the DCIP. So we're not talking about an only child. So this child is basically slaughtered. There is other children that are held. So just think about that. Think about children that should be at school, that should be playing, that should be somewhere else, not in a prison, trying to save another child and taking him and asking for help. I just don't know how these atrocities are happening in front of our eyes, and no one is stopping this criminal state from what it is doing. Ahmed's lawyer, Firas al-Jabrini, has previously said that Israeli authorities repeatedly denied requests to visit Ahmed. He has also said that prisoners held with Ahmed believed they were contracting diseases from dirty water and spoiled cheese and milk fed to them in prison. So for every international journalist, anywhere you are, why no journalists are allowed to visit these prisons to see how these conditions are and show it to the world? Can you just film it and show it to the world? Because it's unfair. Ahmed is one of at least 72 bodies of Palestinians who have been killed in Israeli prisons, being withheld from their families. Israeli forces are currently holding 10,000 Palestinians in detention, including hundreds of children. The most common charge against children being imprisoned is stone throwing. Recently, DCIP reported that the number of children Israelis holding in administrative detention, meaning that they are being held without charges or trial, has hit a record high of at least 112 children. Whenever you think that the Palestinians brought this on themselves, think that children are being held in prisons. Children are being held in prisons. If this was happening in any other country, what would you say about children being held in prisons in a terrible, terrible conditions? Being tortured, being beaten, being starved, and catching diseases and being deprived of treatment. This is what you should think about when you think why the Palestinians are fighting for the self-determination, are fighting to exist. This is what you should think about.